The world had always looked up at the stars, wondering what lay beyond. Most people dreamed of exploring space, imagining peaceful encounters with alien civilizations. But no one had ever thought the first visitors would be so different. The Draconian fleet appeared suddenly, without warning, hanging in Earth's atmosphere like a dark cloud, their enormous ships casting long shadows over cities. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their ships gleamed with metallic scales, their surfaces rippling with strange energy patterns. They were massive, easily dwarfing anything humans had built. The moment they appeared, panic spread like wildfire. For centuries, humans had been warned by scientists and thinkers. If alien life ever arrived, it would likely be hostile. The Draconians, however, were not like any alien humanity had imagined. They were ruthless conquerors from a distant corner of the galaxy. They were feared by countless civilizations, and their name alone was enough to send shivers down the spines of even the bravest warriors. It was said that the Draconians had wiped out entire planets, leaving nothing but dust behind. But Earth was different. Humanity was not like the other species the Draconians had encountered. Earth had its own unique resources, its own strange energy, and a history that no one could have predicted. And though the humans were aware of the Draconians' fearsome reputation, there was one thing they didn't count on: human resilience. As the Draconian ships hovered over the planet, Earth's leaders gathered in the emergency meetings that stretched into the night. World leaders, military generals, scientists, and experts from every corner of the globe joined forces to figure out how to respond to this unprecedented threat. The global defense systems were already on high alert, but everyone knew that a direct confrontation with the Draconians was a dangerous gamble. Humanity had no idea what these alien invaders could do or what they wanted. After hours of tension, a message was received from the Draconian fleet. It wasn't an attack, but a communication. This was more unexpected than anything. The message was simple, but strange. "We come to observe." There was no threat, no demands, just those words. At first, many dismissed it as a trick, a ruse to lower Earth's defenses. The world was still on edge, unsure of what to make of the Draconians. But the message continued to repeat, broadcast across all communication channels. "We come to observe." The words echoed in the minds of every person on Earth. It was as if the whole world had collectively held its breath, waiting for what would come next. The scientists began to study the signal, hoping to find some hidden meaning behind it. They discovered that the message was coming from the Central Command Ship, a gigantic vessel that hung in Earth's orbit like a silent guardian. The ship was far too advanced for any human technology to intercept or understand fully. It had a deep, rhythmic hum, almost like a pulse, which seemed to be in perfect sync with the mysterious signal. Some believed it was a greeting, while others feared it was the beginning of a much darker purpose. But the fact remained: no attack had been launched. Across the world, debates rage. Some believed this was an opportunity for peace, that perhaps the Draconians were not interested in war. Others feared that this calm before the storm was the prelude to something much worse. But one thing was certain: no one had ever expected Earth to be the focus of such an attention. Earth's military was preparing for the worst, while the world's leaders struggled to find a solution. Among the global chaos, one individual, Dr. Elara Hayes, a leading scientist in quantum physics, began to see a pattern. She had been researching anomalies in Earth's atmosphere and energy fields for years, and something about the Draconian ships and their strange signals seemed familiar. It was as if the energy around the ships resonated with something from Earth's past, something ancient. Dr. Hayes suggested a theory to the United Nations, one that made even the most experienced diplomats and military leaders pause. Could the Draconians be testing humanity? She believed the ship's presence in Earth's atmosphere was not an attack, but an observation, a test of sorts. They were studying humanity's reactions, waiting to see what humans would do next. As Dr. Hayes' theory began to spread, it gave hope to many. Perhaps this wasn't the beginning of a war, but the beginning of something else, A chance for Earth to prove that it was more than just another planet to conquer. But what would humanity's answer be? Would they fall to fear or rise to the challenge of showing their worth to the stars? The next few days would decide Earth's fate, and the world held its breath, wondering if humanity could survive this strange and unexpected encounter. Would the Draconians truly observe, or was there something more dangerous hidden behind their calm facade? The skies above Earth were silent, but the tension below was deafening. As days turned into weeks, Earth's leaders grew more anxious. The Draconians' fleet remained in orbit, silent and unmoving. The strange message, "We come to observe," continued to echo across the planet, leaving many to wonder what exactly the aliens were studying. Were they watching Earth's military? Were they testing the strength of humanity's resolve? Or was there something more? Around the world, scientists, engineers, and military experts scrambled to analyze everything they could about the alien presence. Dr. Elara Hayes, the quantum physicist who had proposed the theory that the Draconians might be testing humanity, had become a symbol of hope. Her calm demeanor and insightful mind made her a beacon of rational thinking in the midst of global uncertainty. People turned to her, hoping for guidance, and she did not disappoint. Her team of scientists began working tirelessly on understanding the Draconians' technology. Using Earth's most advanced telescopes, they studied the alien ship's structure. The ships were enormous, far more massive than anything Earth had ever seen, yet they appeared to be almost perfectly symmetrical, with sleek surfaces that seemed to ripple like water. There was something almost organic about the way they moved through space, as if the ships were alive. The most unusual thing, however, was the energy signature emanating from the ships. It wasn't like anything Earth's technology had ever encountered. It was complex and fluctuating, unlike the steady signals produced by human-made machinery. Dr. Hayes and her team realized that the energy pattern wasn't just random, it was deliberate. The Draconians were communicating with something, perhaps each other, or with a system far beyond Earth's understanding. And whatever they were doing, it was not an attack. As the scientists and engineers delved deeper into their studies, military leaders took a different approach. They focused on building up Earth's defenses, preparing for the worst. Warships were launched into space to monitor the Draconian ships, but they stayed well out of range. The global army made strategic moves to prepare for any sudden attack. Despite the uncertainty, the military remained alert, but they were also aware that they might never have to fight. There was still the possibility that the Draconians were simply watching. In a meeting with world leaders, Dr. Hayes argued that humanity needed to take a bold, unconventional approach. She suggested that humans should reach out to the Draconians, offer a message of their own, and show them that humanity was not to be underestimated. But some of the military leaders were hesitant. They feared that any form of communication could be seen as weakness, and that the Draconians might exploit that. But Dr. Hayes was firm in her belief. We cannot win by simply preparing for war. We must show them what we are capable of, not through force, but through our minds. After much debate, Earth's leaders agreed to a daring plan. Rather than waiting for the Draconians to make their move, they would initiate a communication of their own, sending a message of peace. The message was carefully crafted, using the combination of human knowledge and Dr. Hayes' expertise in quantum physics. It was a message that showed humanity's intelligence, creativity, and willingness to engage. It was a statement that Earth was not just a passive world, but a species capable of innovation, unity, and resilience. The message was broadcast into space, aimed directly at the Draconian fleet. It was simple, but powerful. We are ready to talk. We are ready to learn. We are humanity. Days passed with no reply. The world grew restless once more. Would the Draconians respond? Or had humanity's peaceful message been ignored? The uncertainty gnawed at everyone, but Dr. Hayes held on to her belief that communication, rather than confrontation, was the key. Then, just when it seemed like the world would break under the weight of suspense, a response came. It wasn't a message of war, nor was it the usual aggressive demand humanity had feared. Instead, it was a single word: observe. The word appeared on every screen, every communication device across the world. There was no explanation, no context, just that one word. People were stunned. What did it mean? Was it a sign of aggression or something else entirely? Dr. Hayes, who had been tirelessly working to decode the message, had an epiphany. The word wasn't a command, it was a statement of purpose. The Draconians were not simply watching from afar, they were actively observing. They were studying humanity, trying to understand what made Earth's people different from the other civilizations they had conquered. They weren't attacking, not yet, because they were still learning. The Draconians, for all their power, were curious about humanity. Dr. Hayes' theory had been right. The Draconians were testing humanity, but they were doing so in a way that no one had expected. The galaxy's most feared invaders weren't here to destroy Earth. They were here to understand it, to understand humanity itself. The news of the Draconians' response spread like wildfire, bringing hope to the people of Earth. While some still feared the unknown, the idea that the aliens were simply observing gave people something to hold on to. Humanity had always been underestimated, viewed as primitive and weak. But now, it seemed that the Draconians had come to Earth not as conquerors, but as curious observers. The message was clear. Humanity had a chance to prove its worth, not with weapons, but with knowledge, innovation, and the spirit that made it unique. As Earth waited for the next move, one thing was certain: humanity had already begun to change the game. The Draconians had come, not to destroy, but to see what Earth could offer, and humanity was ready to show them. As the Draconians continued to observe Earth from their massive fleet in orbit, a sense of cautious hope began to settle across the planet. Humanity had been given a chance to prove itself, but no one knew exactly how this strange encounter would unfold. Earth's leaders and scientists were still on edge, knowing that the Draconians' true intentions were hidden beneath their calm exterior. Yet there was something else at play, something that would change everything. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, deep within the untouched wilderness, an ancient discovery was about to change humanity's understanding of the universe. The artifact had been hidden for centuries, a relic from Earth's distant past. Few knew of its existence, but its potential was beyond imagination. It was buried beneath layers of soil, forgotten by time, until a team of archaeologists, working alongside quantum physicists and historians, stumbled upon it. Dr. Ilara Hayes, who had become humanity's leading expert on the Draconian fleet, was called upon to investigate. She arrived at the site, her mind racing with possibilities. What could this artifact possibly be? Why had it remained hidden for so long? As the team carefully unearthed the strange object, they discovered that it was unlike anything they had ever seen. The artifact was a crystalline structure, its surface smooth and almost perfectly round, yet it hummed with a faint rhythmic energy. There were markings on it, ancient symbols, many of which were similar to patterns found in the Draconian ship's energy signatures. Dr. Hayes was immediately struck by the connection. The energy emitted by the artifact was not entirely different from the strange fluctuations the Draconian fleet had been sending out. It was almost as if the two were related, like two pieces of a puzzle waiting to be solved. With the help of her team, Dr. Hayes spent days studying the artifact. The more they examined it, the more they realized it was not just a simple object. It was a key to something much larger, something that could potentially unlock the secrets of the universe itself. The artifact, it seemed, had the power to manipulate energy in space in ways that Earth's technology could not even begin to comprehend. But how could this ancient Earth artifact connect to the Draconians, and why was it so important now? Dr. Hayes theorized that the artifact was part of a long-lost civilization, one that had existed thousands of years before modern humanity. This civilization had once been an ally to an even more ancient galactic federation, one that had shared knowledge and technology across the stars. It was possible, she believed, that the Draconians were aware of this history, that they too had encountered this lost civilization, and that Earth had once played a much larger role in galactic events than anyone had known. The team worked day and night, using every tool at their disposal to learn more about the artifact's properties. It was slow going, but as they made progress, Dr. Hayes began to see a pattern. The artifact wasn't just a relic. It was a powerful weapon, one that could be used to defend Earth from the Draconians, or perhaps even to communicate with them on a much deeper level. One evening, as the sun set over the jungle, Dr. Hayes activated the artifact. The moment she did, the ground beneath her feet seemed to hum with energy. A beam of light shot from the crystal and pierced the sky, reaching up to the Draconian fleet above. The light seemed to vibrate with the same energy as the alien ships, and for a moment, everything was silent. The team stood in awe, unsure of what had just happened. But then something incredible occurred. The Draconian ships, which had been hovering silently above the Earth for weeks, began to respond. The energy patterns that had once seemed chaotic and random now seemed to align with the pulse from the artifact. It was as if the two forces, Earth's ancient technology and the Draconians' advanced fleet, were communicating, though neither side understood exactly how. The rhythmic pulse that had once been a mystery now seemed to speak a language that both Earth and the Draconians could feel, if not understand. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Was it possible that humanity had discovered an ancient weapon capable of influencing the Draconian ships? Could this artifact be the key to negotiating with the invaders, or even driving them away without firing a single shot? The implications were staggering, and the pressure on Dr. Hayes and her team only increased. The fate of Earth might rest on this one ancient discovery. But as the days passed, there was still no direct communication from the Draconians. They continued to observe, their ships remaining motionless in orbit. And yet, the artifact's power seemed to resonate more strongly with each passing day. It was as if the Draconians were waiting for something, perhaps for humanity to show them that they had a way to fight back, not with weapons, but with something much more powerful, their minds. Dr. Hayes knew that humanity now had a chance to change the course of history. The artifact was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of what Earth could offer the galaxy. The Draconians, for all their power, had never encountered anything like this before. And as long as the artifact continued to hum with energy, there was hope that humanity could prove itself as more than just another species to be conquered. The stage was set. Earth had its hidden weapon, its ancient, mysterious key, and now it was up to humanity to use it wisely. Weeks had passed since the strange pulse of light shot from the artifact into the sky, and still, the Draconian fleet remained silent in orbit above Earth. Humanity held its breath, unsure of what to expect next. The artifact's power continued to resonate, but it was clear that the Draconians had not yet acted in any direct way. Despite their immense technological power, they seemed to be waiting for something, a sign, a decision, or perhaps a response from Earth. The quiet was unnerving. The world's leaders gathered in emergency meetings, but no one knew what to say. Dr. Hayes had proven that the artifact was more than just a relic. It was a powerful tool that could potentially communicate with the alien fleet. But how would the Draconians interpret it? Were they still just observing, or were they preparing to strike? The military, always ready for the worst, had begun making more proactive moves. Satellites, laser weapons, and advanced aircraft were all brought into full readiness. Earth's leaders knew that if the Draconians decided to attack, humanity's defenses were far from ready to handle an invasion of such magnitude. But even as weapons were positioned and plans were drawn up, there was still hope that war could be avoided. It was during this time of uncertainty that something extraordinary happened. One morning, without any warning, the Draconians' massive flagship, a sleek, dark vessel that had dominated the skies for weeks, suddenly powered up. Its surface began to glow, and the hum of its engines filled the atmosphere. For the first time since their arrival, the Draconians were taking action. But what kind of action was it? Was it an attack? Was this the beginning of a battle? The world held its breath as the flagship moved slowly, almost deliberately, through Earth's atmosphere. Then, to everyone's shock, the ship did not fire a single weapon. Instead, it moved in a wide arc, sending out a wave of energy that seemed to pulse through the atmosphere, reaching every corner of the globe. The wave wasn't destructive. It was subtle, almost gentle, and it seemed to affect everyone in different ways. People across Earth reported strange sensations. Some felt calm, others felt a deep sense of curiosity, and still others experienced flashes of memories that seemed not their own. It was as if the wave had triggered something inside humanity, something buried deep within their minds. Dr. Hayes and her team were quick to act. They analyzed the energy signature of the wave, and what they discovered sent chills down their spines. The wave wasn't just an energy pulse. It was an attempt to connect, a form of communication, but not through words. The Draconians were reaching out, trying to establish a deeper connection, one that transcended language and technology. But what did it mean? Dr. Hayes believed that the Draconians were struggling. They were faced with something they had never encountered before, a species that was not only different from the others they had conquered, but one that was capable of responding to their presence in ways that no one could predict. The Draconians had likely spent centuries conquering civilizations, bending them to their will, and taking their resources, but humanity's reaction was unlike anything they had experienced. The Draconian struggle was not just technological, it was emotional. They had never needed to understand a species the way they were now trying to understand Earth. The wave they had sent out was not an attack. It was a test, a way of gauging humanity's response and trying to understand why Earth was different. The global response to the wave was both surprising and enlightening. Instead of panicking, most people seemed to feel a sense of peace. The world, though still on edge, began to believe that the Draconians weren't here to destroy Earth. They were trying to learn about humanity, to understand what made Earth so special. As the Draconian fleet hovered silently above Earth, the human race began to see that this might not be a battle they needed to fight. Earth's greatest strength had always been its people. They were creative, resilient, and determined to survive. Even now, with the most powerful fleet in the galaxy watching from the skies, humanity's response was one of calm and curiosity. Dr. Hayes now knew that the Draconians were struggling to find a way to interact with Earth, not by force, but by understanding. The ancient artifact's pulse had opened a door, and the Draconians were now trying to step through it, cautiously, unsure of what they would find. But the battle was far from over. There was still a question that hung in the air, unanswered. Would the Draconians truly see humanity as an equal, or would they decide to test the planet's defenses more directly? Humanity's resilience would be tested in ways it had never imagined. The Draconians were watching, learning, and waiting. And Earth, for the first time in its history, was forced to look inward and question what it truly meant to be a part of the galactic community. The struggle had only just begun, but humanity's response would shape the future. The Draconians' mysterious energy wave had left the world in a state of uneasy peace. Humanity, once on the brink of panic, now found itself caught in a web of curiosity and uncertainty. The Draconian fleet remained above Earth, silent and watchful. The strange pulse they had sent out had caused reactions across the planet. Some were filled with a calm understanding, while others felt uneasy and confused. Humanity's response had been mostly one of quiet observation. Yet there was an undeniable sense that the relationship between Earth and the Draconians was shifting. Dr. Elara Hayes continued her work, piecing together the puzzle of the alien presence. Each new discovery brought more questions than answers. The energy waves, the glowing lights from the Draconian ships, the artifact. It all pointed to one thing. The Draconians were not here to destroy, but to communicate. Yet the real question remained. What did the Draconians truly want? The galaxy had long feared them as conquerors, merciless and calculating, but Earth had shown a different side. Humans were not surrendering, nor were they backing down. They were trying to understand. The question of whether the Draconians would appreciate humanity's approach or see it as weakness was still hanging in the balance. One morning, as Dr. Hayes sat in her lab, a signal arrived that would change everything. It was faint at first, just a whisper on the edges of the world's communication systems. At first, no one knew if it was a glitch, a signal from a distant star, or something else entirely. But as the signal grew stronger, Dr. Hayes' heart skipped a beat. It was unmistakably from the Draconians. The message was simple: we seek understanding. It was a statement, not a question. The words, though brief, were powerful. Earth had never been so directly addressed by the alien fleet. For the first time, the Draconians had made their intentions clear, not as invaders, but as students seeking to learn. Dr. Hayes immediately alerted world leaders. The time had come. The message was a pivotal moment, and the future of humanity was on the line. There was no time to waste in fear or hesitation. Earth's leaders, scientists, and military experts gathered in a secretive global summit to discuss the next steps. Despite the overwhelming evidence that the Draconians were not here to destroy, some still hesitated. The military, in particular, was wary of showing any signs of weakness. Their advisors urged caution, arguing that even a peaceful gesture could be seen as an invitation for further probing. But others, like Dr. Hayes, believed that now was the time to take the next step. Humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to adapt, learn, and grow. The Draconians, for all their might, were trying to understand Earth. And now, it was time for humanity to respond, not with force, but with a message of its own. After hours of discussion, the leaders of the world came to an agreement. Humanity would send a reply, a gesture of peace and cooperation. It was to be a signal, one that would not just convey Earth's intent, but also show the Draconians that humanity was more than just a species to be observed. Humanity was ready to engage in a dialogue, one that would challenge both sides to learn and grow. The message that went out was simple: we are ready to share. We are humanity. We seek peace and knowledge. The transmission was sent directly to the Draconian fleet, a signal of hope and understanding. And yet, as the message traveled into the stars, a deep sense of unease settled over Earth. Would the Draconians truly be willing to listen? Could humanity's message of peace really change the course of the future? Days passed, but there was no immediate response. People around the world grew anxious, unsure whether their message had been received or understood. The world waited. The Draconians, who had been silent for so long, now seemed to be waiting for something too. Was the message a success, or would the aliens interpret it as weakness? Then, just when the tension seemed unbearable, something incredible happened. The Draconians' flagship powered up once more, sending a burst of energy toward Earth. But this time, it was different. The energy wave did not cause fear. Instead, it was a gentle, steady pulse, one that seemed to acknowledge humanity's message. As the wave reached Earth, the world felt it. Every person, in every corner of the planet, felt the pulse. It was not a forceful wave, but one that seemed to wrap around the world like a calm breath. The Draconians were not responding with threats or demands. They were acknowledging humanity's plea for understanding. Dr. Hayes stood in her lab, staring at the readings, her mind racing. She knew that this was the beginning of something new. Humanity had done more than just survive the arrival of the Draconians. They had opened the door to a new chapter in the history of the galaxy. The Draconians had come to Earth not to conquer, but to understand. And humanity had shown them that peace, knowledge, and collaboration were possible, even between two species from distant corners of the stars. But the true test was yet to come. The Draconians had acknowledged humanity's message, but the future was still uncertain. Would the two species be able to truly communicate, or would misunderstandings arise once again? The silent negotiation between Earth and the Draconians had only just begun. But for the first time in history, the future seemed full of possibility, not fear. The pulse from the Draconian fleet had rippled across Earth like a gentle wave. leaving behind a feeling of both relief and anticipation. The world had come together in a rare moment of unity, sharing a collective hope that this unexpected connection could lead to something greater than anyone had ever imagined. The tension that had once gripped humanity now seemed to fade, replaced by a cautious optimism. Dr. Ilara Hayes stood before a large screen in her lab, analyzing the data from the Draconians' most recent pulse. It was clear now that the aliens were not just observing. They were listening, responding in ways that defied traditional understanding of intergalactic communication. No longer was the fleet a silent observer hovering above Earth. They had begun to interact, and that alone was a victory. But as the days passed, Dr. Hayes knew that this was only the beginning. The pulse had been a sign of peace, but peace alone would not be enough to bridge the gap between two species so different from one another. Humanity and the Draconians had much to learn, not just about each other, but about the wider universe that both had shared unknowingly for so long. The future of their relationship was uncertain, but it was clear that Earth's response had opened a door. The global summit was called once more. World leaders, scientists, and military advisors gathered to discuss the next phase in humanity's response to the Draconian presence. The question on everyone's mind was the same. What now? We must take this opportunity to show that Earth is not a place of fear, but a world of innovation and cooperation, Dr. Hayes said, standing before the summit's members. The Draconians are not here to destroy us. They are reaching out, asking for something. Our message of peace has been received, but now we must decide how to move forward. The debate was fierce. Some argued that humanity should take the lead in further communication, offering knowledge and technology in exchange for security and understanding. Others, however, cautioned that the Draconians might not be as peaceful as they seemed. Earth had seen enough wars throughout history to know that appearances could be deceiving. Dr. Hayes and several of the world's leading scientists, however, believed that humanity had an unprecedented opportunity. Earth had something that the Draconians did not: diversity. The human race was not a single-minded species. Its people came from all walks of life, with different ideas, skills, and cultures. It was this diversity that could be humanity's greatest strength in forging a bond with the Draconians. The decision was made. Earth would send a representative delegation to the Draconians, not with demands, but with an open invitation to learn and share knowledge. The delegation would include diplomats, scientists, and even philosophers, people who could bridge the gap between two worlds with communication, empathy, and understanding. In the days leading up to the mission, there was an air of excitement mixed with nervousness. The delegation would be the first human contact with the Draconians, and no one knew what to expect. Some feared that this was a risky move, while others believed it was their best chance at building a lasting peace. When the day came, a sleek spacecraft, specially designed for the mission, lifted off from Earth. It was equipped with advanced communication tools and was built with the best of humanity's technology. As the ship ascended toward the Draconians' fleet, Dr. Hayes watched from her lab, her heart racing. This was the moment that would define Earth's future. The spacecraft, with its crew of carefully selected humans, arrived at the outer edge of the Draconian fleet's orbit. The Draconian ships, massive and silent, loomed in the distance. The humans aboard the ship were anxious, but they remained focused on their mission. They knew that this moment could be the beginning of something monumental. The first contact was made. The Draconians responded not with weapons or defensive maneuvers, but with a soft pulse of energy, a sign of recognition and readiness. The humans sent out a message, simple and clear. We come in peace, to learn and share. For a long moment, there was silence. The humans held their breath, unsure of how the Draconians would respond. Then, slowly, a smaller ship detached from the fleet. It moved toward the human spacecraft with a grace that was almost serene. No weapons, no threats, just a calm and deliberate approach. When the two ships finally met, there was no exchange of gunfire or displays of power. Instead, A slow, almost tentative energy pulse was exchanged. It was not an attack. It was an invitation. The Draconians were offering a way forward, an acknowledgement of humanity's message of peace. The crew of the human spacecraft stood together, watching the scene unfold in awe. This was it, the first step toward a new era. Both species stood at the threshold of a new chapter in the story of the galaxy. The Draconians, once feared conquerors, were now open to the idea of sharing knowledge with a species they had once viewed as primitive. And humanity, for its part, had shown that it was ready to engage with the wider universe, not with fear, but with curiosity and hope. Dr. Hayes knew that this moment would be remembered for generations to come. It was not just a victory for humanity. It was a victory for the idea of cooperation, for the belief that even the most unlikely of allies could find common ground. As the two ships floated side by side, a new possibility blossomed in the hearts of all those who watched. The road ahead would not be easy, but it would be filled with promise. And for the first time in history, Earth was no longer alone in the vastness of space. The human spacecraft, now in orbit with the Draconian flagship, hovered in quiet anticipation. The crew on board felt a mixture of awe and uncertainty. The vastness of space stretched out before them, and they were on the verge of something truly monumental. The Draconians, once seen as powerful conquerors, now seemed to be engaging in a way that was unfamiliar, peaceful, curious, and tentative. As the ship floated in the shadow of the Draconian fleet, the humans began to prepare for the next phase of contact. The delegation on board was carefully selected: diplomats, scientists, philosophers, and even artists. People who understood that communication went beyond words. It was about shared experiences, emotions, and the willingness to connect on a deeper level. Dr. Elara Hayes was among them, her mind racing with possibilities. The pulse of energy exchanged earlier had been a sign of acknowledgement, but now they were faced with a new challenge. How would they build on this fragile foundation? How could humanity show the Draconians that they were more than just a species struggling to survive? They were a species capable of growth, creativity, and collaboration. Dr. Hayes, "We're ready," came the voice of the mission leader over the communication channel. It was Captain Eli Grayson, the leader of the human delegation. The Draconians have signaled that they're prepared for the next step. Elara took a deep breath. Understood. Let's begin. The humans had prepared a message, one that spoke not just of peace, but of shared potential. It was a message of hope, of what could be accomplished when two civilizations, so different, chose to come together instead of clash. The message was clear: we are not so different. We seek knowledge, understanding, and the opportunity to create something greater together. The Draconians, in response, sent a soft, steady pulse back, a confirmation that they had received the message. No words were exchanged, but for the first time in history, the two species seemed to be on the same page. There was no violence, no fear, just a mutual recognition of something far more profound. An understanding that this meeting was not the end of something, but the beginning of something new. Captain Grayson's voice broke the silence. The Draconians are inviting us to board their ship. They want to meet face to face. Elara's heart raced. This was the moment. Humanity was about to meet the Draconians in person. After months of waiting, questioning, and wondering, it was time for the first true exchange between Earth and the most powerful species in the galaxy. She took a steadying breath and nodded. "Let's go," she said. The humans boarded a smaller shuttle, which was carefully designed for the meeting. The Draconians had already set the stage, a large, circular space within their flagship, where the delegation would meet. The room was illuminated by soft, bioluminescent lights that glowed in a calm, soothing rhythm. It felt almost dreamlike, as if the entire space had been built to encourage peace and understanding. As they entered the room, the Draconians stood waiting. They were tall, their figures lithe and elegant, but their eyes were different than what humanity had expected. There was no malice, no harshness. Instead, their eyes reflected a deep, intelligent curiosity, an openness to the unknown. Ilara stepped forward, the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. This was the moment when everything could change. A single misstep could undo the progress they had made, but she knew that humanity's strength lay in its ability to learn and adapt. "Greetings," Ilara said softly, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We come in peace. We seek to understand, to learn, and to share what we know." The Draconians made no immediate response. They studied the humans, their gaze intense but not threatening. Then, in an unexpected gesture, one of them stepped forward, raising a hand. A gesture of peace. A holographic image shimmered in the air, displaying the Draconians' homeworld. It was an alien planet, beautiful in its own way, yet barren and struggling. The message it conveyed was clear. The Draconians had once been a species of great promise, but they too had faced challenges that nearly wiped them out. They had turned to the stars for survival, and in doing so, they had conquered many civilizations. But now, they sought something more. A new way to live, not just to conquer, but to coexist. As the holographic image faded, Ilara felt a rush of understanding. The Draconians had not come to Earth to conquer. They had come to learn, just as humanity had. They had come to find a new way forward, one that involved partnership and collaboration, not domination. The humans were not the only ones who had suffered. The Draconians, in their search for power, had lost something precious, an understanding of what it meant to live in harmony, to work together, and to grow. Ilara turned to her fellow humans, who were also staring at the image with a sense of wonder. They, too, had understood. The message was clear. "We can help each other," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "Together, we can create something better than either of us could alone." The Draconians nodded slowly. For the first time, the two species seemed to truly understand each other. There would be challenges ahead, differences in culture, technology, and philosophy. But there was also something incredible, a shared desire for peace, knowledge, and a better future. And so, humanity and the Draconians began their journey together, not as conquerors and the conquered, but as partners. It was a beginning, a new dawn for both species, one where the stars no longer separated them, but connected them. The galaxy, once vast and unknowable, now seemed smaller, filled with infinite possibilities. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in history, humanity looked up at the stars with hope, not fear. And with that, the first chapter of a new era began.